Just for context, we met 6 months ago, and basically, after a few seconds, Richard told me, I'm sorry, I don't do awards. And 10 minutes after, we agreed that we also don't like awards. We're not giving awards to people. What we do tonight is data is just giving awards to companies, and this is why you agreed to be here. So don't worry, no awards for you today individually.
Thank you.
So, Cargolux is another incredible story, a huge success in Luxembourg, founded in 1970, just before the jet age. Then we went jumbo in 79. In 93, it was the first airline to fly a B-74 747-400F. 2005, you launched a customer for the B-747-8F. 2008, Cargolux Italia. 2014, investment by HNCA. For those who are not familiar, it's a Chinese group. 2023 is the COVID years, which I think were pretty good for you. When we put it like this, it's like, oh, this is sad. No, you did at one stage record profits. And 2023, creation of Aquarius AFF, an acquisition of Luxer Cargo, and you're celebrating 55 years of operation. So Richard, first question, given your global presence, how are the recent geopolitical developments influencing your operations and strategic priorities?
Well, it's influenced it both positively and negatively. Negatively is that as an EU carrier, we can no longer use Russian airspace. So as an airline, we probably fly 2 hours longer per sector into Asia. So that obviously means more fuel consumption, more CO2 emissions, and without getting compensated for it, because we are competing globally with airlines that do use Russian airspace, for example, Middle Eastern carriers.
So who can use it? Who is allowed to use it?
At this stage, the Middle Eastern carriers, every country was not embargoed Russia or sanctioned Russia, so you're talking about Middle Eastern carriers that continue to use Russian airspace, Chinese carriers who continue to use Russian airspace into Europe, and that's who we're competing with at the end of the day. So I think, unlike maybe many other businesses within Europe that compete amongst themselves, we are competing on a truly global basis with the rest of the world. Other impacts as well is that with the geopolitical tensions and the trade wars that are carrying on, it has had a significant impact on our trans-Pacific services where we fly directly from Hong Kong to the US. It's had an impact on that, especially in the arena of e-commerce, where the de minimis rule in the US of $800 has been eliminated. So anybody buying e-commerce, you will pay import tariffs on whatever you buy. And from a European perspective, it was initially at 2028. They were thinking of introducing tariffs. Now they're thinking of introducing it in 2026. Import tariffs on whatever you buy. In addition to that, a €2 surcharge or administration fee per package. And take into account that e-commerce has grown within the EU by more than 100% compared to last year. So from an airline perspective, yes, there are significant impacts, but these are the challenges that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. The Middle Eastern war that broke out caused us to have to reroute flights as well. If you read about the Ethiopian volcanic eruption a day ago, that interrupted our flights as well, which forces us then to delay flights taking off or to fly around those. So those are all additional costs we incur as an airline, but the revenue stream remains the same. But I think as an organization, we are strong and resilient enough to face these challenges and to overcome them and still deliver value to our shareholders.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at your numbers. So it's 50 plus a network of 50 online and 289 trucking destinations, a big fleet, of course, $3.3 billion revenue in 2024, profit after tax 448, total assets, you obviously can deal with a few uncertainties for a little while, and 3,850 employees. So when I listen to you, it's about rapid change, it's about quick adaptation, about competitiveness. How do you anticipate the future, basically, and which are the key challenges that you're focusing on right now?
Well, the future, obviously, when we buy an aircraft, and you see we've ordered 10 777-8Fs, those assets are with us for the next 20 to 25 years. It's a leap of faith that you take at the end of the day. And in looking at what the future is going to be like, is preparing yourself. And the biggest thing in a company, in dealing with the future, is that there is no certainty in the future. Okay, there are many companies that spend many months doing budgets for the next year. And what it proves is that when the next year comes along, especially in the airline industry, you throw it out the window and you reforecast every quarter because they're lots more accurate for your shareholders. But going forward, I was getting off track there, sorry. The biggest challenge that I see going forward is the outsourcing of manufacturers in China to other places around the world. China to date has been the central place of manufacture. But because of what happened during the COVID years and the over-reliance on a single point of failure, the challenge is where is the next major manufacturing hub or hubs going to be, and as an airline to have a presence, a major presence in those hubs at the end of the day. Yes, India is there. It's got a young population. It's got highly trained young workforce, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes maybe 5 to 10 years to get to full capacity whereby they can start producing high-tech stuff that we have an insatiable appetite for as global consumers. And we need to ensure that in each and every single market where manufacturing is being moved to, that the airline does have a presence there, because without that presence, we got nothing to fly. It doesn't happen overnight. You know, if you look at a country like Singapore, Singapore took decades to get where they were from the beginning when they broke away from Malaysia. It was opium addicts. They were staying in slums, etc. And today they are a world-class financial center, manufacturing center, etc. Their GDP is $529 billion. If you compare that to Luxembourg, and I don't want to be critical, but if you compare that to Luxembourg, Luxembourg is 2,800 square kilometers. You have a GDP of $94 billion. You probably had a better start in life than what Singapore had at the end of the day. But what Singapore had was a vision from the very beginning, which they continued throughout, without deviating from that path. And that's one of the problems I see within the EU. We are a democracy, but unfortunately there's no continuity in the vision of where we want to get to at the end of the day. There's a government every 4 years, and that vision might change. So, unfortunately, it is going to be extremely difficult for, in my perspective, any European country to get back to a level of competitiveness, because we've built up such a sophisticated welfare system throughout the EU, that it makes it extremely difficult for employers to compete with those outside of the EU.
Yeah, and there's two things here. There's Lee Kuan Yew, of course, who had a very strong leadership, a very clear vision. And I think a critical aspect was in the 80s when they did the 2-key system, where basically you can be elected, you hold one key, but you still have another key in a council because Lee Kuan Yew anticipated that people would spend too much to be re-elected, and I think this is maybe what's missing in Europe. Last question, maybe you're one of the top employers. We've all seen the news recently about Amazon. I'll be very honest, it gets on my nerve. This is the second biggest employer in Luxembourg, and everything we read about right now is, why are they not more public about who they will hire? I believe sometimes you need to hire, sometimes you need to fire, and I don't think the press should be just making one title after the other about the transparency of hiring people. So you're one of the top employers. What do you consider an essential factor for building a resilient national economy?
Number one, you need to diversify. And with respect to the previous speaker, the financial industry is such a prominent business sector in this country. If something had to happen to that sector, what is there to fall back on at the end of the day? You really have to think about it. If that sector has to reduce because of economic woes, or because other countries become more competitive, etc., how are you going to then handle the situation of a declining financial sector, but you don't have anything else of sufficient mass to replace that? Because it's all well and fine to say, yes, we're attracting all of this funds into the country, but it moves just as quickly out. And what I believe that Luxembourg lacks is a really true high-tech manufacturing industry. You know, I mean, and it's not going to happen overnight to diversify. It's going to take decades to diversify. You need to attract the talent to come into Luxembourg, for people to stay here in Luxembourg, for the housing prices to normalize to levels where people can have a comfortable life. That is what you need at the end of the day if you want to bring talent into Luxembourg to enable a diversification of the economy. You can't have a two-tier system of expats coming in and locals earning different salaries. It's only going to cause social chaos. You're going to have the preferred few and the rest of the mass that have to suffer. So from a Luxembourg perspective, you need to become a lot more competitive in building up the rest of the industries that you need in order to have a solid diversification of the economy. Without that diversification, you are vulnerable.
And it's good to remind us that we did that already. You remember in the 50s, we attracted American companies, Goodyear, DuPont, Guardian. It's been done before. We created SES in 1985. So it's not like this is something we've never done. But the key word we keep repeating is the short path, the côte sauvée in Luxembourgish. I think we can all agree right now, most of those côtes sauvées are broken, and we need to quickly rebuild them. Well, thank you very much for taking the time, Richard, and I wish Cargolux another fantastic year next year.
Thank you very much. Thank you.